going.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the group chat. Nice to see our community members. Got a lot of great things to discuss today. Excited for the show. Excited to hear from all of you. If you want to participate in the show, please just raise your hand and we'll call on you to offer thoughts, feedback, pose questions of your own on the topics we're discussing or really anything else. We invite you, the people, to participate however you want, but please do manifest the ethos of two-way, which is peace, love, and understanding. We really appreciate that. We want to model civil discussion, debate, and behavior. And we also, if you have not done this, we want to need you, implore you to, let me mute my Slack here real quickly, to subscribe to our new YouTube channel, which there's probably a link for somewhere. And we so appreciate if you do that. Same show as always, but on a new YouTube channel. Thank you for doing that. Joined today, of course, by the Honorable Nina Turner, Emma Jo Morris, and Michael LaRosa, who we've had on the show before. Frequent and favorite guest of ours. He's a special assistant to the Bidens and a partner at Ballard Partners. Excuse me. Glad to have you with us. We really appreciate it. Today, we are discussing what else. It feels like this is the major news story, certainly. The progress of the war against Iran. Pete Hegseth giving another briefing on it this morning that I always seem to catch while I'm in hair and makeup for Rising. I don't know about the rest of you, how early you have to get up. It seems like it's prior to a lot of working people having to start their work days. Maybe that's by design. Let's actually play element one, Hegseth going after the press, the media. He says not being positive enough about the progress of the war. Let's play that.
Honest and anti-Trump press will stop at nothing. We know this at this point. To downplay progress, amplify every cost, and call into question every step. Sadly, TDS is in their DNA. They want President Trump to fail. But you, the American people, know better.
Emma Jo, I'll start with you. I don't know. I'm pretty critical of the mainstream media. I have not seen a lot of excessive, like, black pilling so far, but maybe you feel differently. Like, I don't know that it's being covered super unfairly or unreasonably. I don't know what he's talking about. It seems like they're just playing the hits. Like, oh, they all have TDS. They're all relentlessly wanting it to fail. I don't know exactly what he's referring to there.
Yeah, I mean the specific wording was a little cliche, probably.
Yeah.
It was a little, yeah.
They hate
Craziness
America,
is-
Emma Jo. They
yeah, that's probably a good way to describe that line. TDS. I'm a little sick of it. I just wish, as somebody who's really interested in branding and aesthetics, that we could maybe find something a little bit more catchy. But in any case, listen, I think he has a point. If you watch something called MS Now, that is a channel, they
I
will
don't
tell
respect his
you.
pronouns. It's always MSNBC to me.
Yeah, like MS. I'm trying to say, I can't spit it out.
It's
Um,
hard.
yeah, they'll tell you that we're basically a conquered country. Actually, that we shouldn't even be called America anymore. That we're actually the Islamic Republic of I told you so.
Mm.
But
Ayatollah.
it doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't feel as severe and as unfair almost as actually what I find in a lot of right wing media, especially in a lot of right wing conservative media, obviously. Right wing alternative media, where this is just the ultimate sin, in a way described in a way that, by the way, does not reflect polling of the base at all. Who these podcasters and posters and influencers are ostensibly representing is like the MAGA base, and the MAGA base is not as skittish or as worried at all. They're not as triggered by Israel at all, and yet somehow we're like barely 2 weeks into this thing, and Trump is the Antichrist. I think that he is right. I think that perhaps he needs to look to his right when he talks about Trump derangement syndrome, unfortunately. And I think personally, as a MAGA voter myself, that I'm willing to, which I think is actually the correct take according to the base, willing to give this guy who I elected, who I voted for president because I trusted his judgment, a shot to like think about this and figure it out. It's way too soon, I think, to declare that he's some sort of George Bush spawn or worse. It's way too soon. I have not decided that. I don't know how anybody in media decides that. These podcasters seem to be in a world of their own.
Nina, it is interesting. There is a lot of maybe more. I mean, I never mean to quantify things in a way I can actually back up, but there is a contingent of the right, and we can debate how large or representative they are. But I mean, some of the at least formerly loudest and most influential conservative commentators, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owen, we all know who we're talking about, are extremely stridently against this. And conservatives right now are debating how big how real those numbers are. Obviously, those people are big people. Are their audience, is it all genuine? Is it, what is it representative of anything? Do you have any insights into that as someone who follows, leftist opposition to this war, and that be, just intervention in general, and that being kind of undercounted or ignored by other people in Democratic circles? I wonder if something similar is happening, or if it's just, or maybe it is, maybe Tucker's audience is just the left now. Maybe it's not, maybe like the conservatives who watched him deserted him. I don't know.
No, definitely his audience is not the left now, Robbie.
They're not inviting Nina Turner on anytime soon?
Yeah, not anytime soon. I don't know, Tucker, baby, I'm here. Just
honestly, like that would be a good show. You'd probably
it would be an excellent show, Emma Joe. Tucker Carlson, baby, give me a call. No, Robbie, I think you're onto something. Emma Joe may have brought this up some weeks ago. And Emma Joe, you can correct me if I'm miscategorizing something. But a lot of the vote, or some of the voters that voted for President Trump in 2024, I think there's levels of MAGA, just like there's levels, to any, whether you're progressive or middle of the way Democrats, they're levels. And I think some people who voted for President Trump this last time around voted for him based on certain issues compared to the pain points under the Biden-Harris administration. So some joined the Trump train for the economy. Obviously, some joined the Trump train because he said he would be anti-war, no forever wars. Some joined the Trump train. So there is data out there that says that the MAGA base is eroding somewhat, but that, that's just kind of normal. I don't think anybody should start clutching pearls over it. But what I do, Robbie, find quite interesting is Hegseth's admonishment of the media. Last time I checked, the Constitution is very clear about the freedom of press. My understanding of that is that fourth estate is supposed to be separate and apart from governmental entities. Therefore, it is not the press's job to cheerlead for anybody. In a world that would be righteous when it comes to the press. Now we know we got a lot more commentators now than we did, 20, 30, 50 years ago. People used to just report the news, allow people the opportunity to make their own decisions. But now we got a lot of people, commentators, who pretend to be journalists, but they're really just giving you all opinion. So buyer's remorse, Hegseth should put the anger and the fervor towards his administration and not necessarily the press being uplifting what in fact the president is doing. There are pain points that the American people are feeling right now, from the increase to gas prices to Americans dying, to other pain points because of this war. And I think that's what they should. And I know technically they're not calling it a war because there are boots on the ground. There will be boots on the ground, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this.
No, we don't respect their pronouns either. It's a war.
Yeah, I don't, Robbie. Let's just go on and call it what it is. And then I know I will get a chance to make this point throughout our conversation. I want to see the troops centered here. It's very easy for Hegseth to point his finger at the press. Well, his sons, daughters, if he has any, but none of them, their children are not going into battle. It is not their families that are going to be impacted by this, whether they are in Iran or whether they're the American people or in Lebanon or somewhere else around the world. So they can have this attitude. This is the same administration that is taking, reduce the budget of the VA. When our troops come back, those who do come back, whether they have post-traumatic stress disorder, which I have right now talking about this, or they've lost limbs, there's going to be a consequence. So the same administration that has a cavalier attitude about sending American troops to fight somebody else's war got the pure unadulterated nerve to criticize the press.
Just for the record, though, Trump literally just said today that absolutely he's not sending troops. I mean, again, that's today, but we're having this conversation also today.
Well, so Michael, how do you, what is your evaluation of how well the administration's comms have been on this thing so far? Because, on one hand, Hegseth is a smooth talker and a TV personality, and the military successes are obvious. It is impressive how we have decimated the capabilities of the Iranian forces. On the other hand, I think there's been a lot of confusion about what the actual goal is. I think that confusion has been mitigated over time. But, initially we all just woke up to this going on and we're like, is this about Israel's security? Is this about Iran's nuclear capabilities? Is this about regime change? And I think it's become more about actually just limiting their ability to damage us and our allies and not necessarily replacing the government. But I didn't love that it took us a while to figure that out. What do you make of how they're handling this?
So a couple of things, and I would separate for right now, Hegseth from the rest of the narrative about going in and the need to go in. I want to give any president, any executive, the benefit of the doubt when they make these kinds of decisions and send troops abroad. And I always try to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I always want to. And I want to give this president the benefit of the doubt too, but I do think it would be better for them, better for the president, better for his politics, better for Hegseth, if they were making a more compelling case, if there was a more compelling case to be made about the danger and the urgency and the timing of why we were doing what we were doing, because everything they're saying makes complete sense. I think the problem people have, I think his voters will always forgive him and be with him, and that is bearing out statistically that they are with him and they're not going anywhere. They will follow him to the end, and that's great. And you can be a leader that commands that kind of loyalty. But I think he owes it to the entire country to explain the urgency and the compelling reason and timeline for going in now. Hegseth, Cat. Sorry.
No worries.
Hegseth. Oh, here's what I was going to say. Look, he's very focused on the media. I was very tough on the Biden campaign, my old colleagues at the White House, because all they did towards the end was blame the media for everything.
Yeah.
And Hegseth does a lot of that. And that really, that annoys me because, one, look, if you're blaming the media, that means you don't have a strong enough case to make. It's usually a tell. And it was the case with the Biden folks as well. Every time a bad poll came out, they would blame the media for even covering the polls as if it was something new, or blame the media because nobody was feeling the economic recovery, blame the media for covering his age, even though they would never put him on TV or let him communicate to show us that he was completely agile and all those things. All they did was want to blame the press, and every time Hegseth goes up there, with this agenda to smack around the press, and look, I think he would be a more empathetic figure, and I think he's really good at the podium. He's a natural for this medium, for television and for the screen. He's handsome, attractive. He has all the energy to be persuasive, but people see through the blame the media stuff. And I think it makes him look weaker than he needs to be. I also think he would benefit because he is a decent communicator, even if I am not always aligned with what he's communicating, or if I strongly disagree with what he's communicating. He's a good communicator at the craft. He should open it up to the rest of the media. He should bring in all of the mainstream media that he's complaining about, so that at the end of the day, there'll be no excuse for the media not reporting on what he is giving them, or not communicating the message that he is delivering. He can make them own it, but he should be more inclusive of the media that he hates, the MSNB now, or MSNBCs and New York Times, all the mainstream legacy outlets he hates. He's good at this. He can do the back and forth. He can handle it. So I don't know why he doesn't do that. Again, I think it makes him look weaker than he needs to be.
Yeah, I was reminded that the people in I don't actually know which reporters are necessarily at the Department of Defense because of that, requirement they put on them that a lot of them wouldn't sign. Because it was for the part I was listening to this morning, Gateway Pundit got a question, and actually they asked a perfectly legitimate question. They asked something about Joe Kent going on, or was it about Tulsi or Joe Kent? These are issues now for the administration that this ex-official Joe Kent, who resigned this week, said there was no reason that Iran was no threat, not going to attack, and this was done at the behest of Israel. I mean, if you think that's an internet conspiracy theory idea, you're fine to think that, but this is a formerly senior official who just said this. And then Tulsi absolutely didn't endorse any of that, but in her talking about it in the hearing, basically reiterated that she had not seen intelligence that Iran was a threat. And then the obvious question is, okay, but Trump decided to do this. And she basically said, well, we don't tell him what to do. We just tell him what we think. It's like, okay, well then where did the intelligence he got that showed him he should do this come from, if not from you? And these are all, I mean, even if I was gung-ho enthusiast about this, I would be confused at that point. I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that confluence.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a grandma moment. Group chat. You can put truth in the river 5 days after lie. Truth gone, catch up, as my grandmother used to say. And I think the truth is catching up. For him to come down as harsh and criticize Kent and call him weak, because that's what the president starts to do. He starts calling people names. When he can't handle the truth. One of my favorite movies, A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. He can't handle the truth. So now you want to call a man who served in the military, who lost his wife, who was in the military, who has this level of expertise that the president nor Hegseth has. And now he has sacrificed his job and his position to tell the truth about why we got into this war. And you just calling this man names like this. So I just think, Robbie, truth in the river is starting to catch up. And I did watch some of Tulsi Gabbard's, and for her, the intelligence community, their job is to communicate with the president of the United States of America. Now, ultimately, it is any president's. They get the final say. When you work for a principal, they absolutely get the final say. But the way Tulsi was coming off as if, oh, no, I mean, well, our hands. Well, then what you there for? Why do we have an intelligence community? Why do presidents have advisors and cabinet members? If your hands is totally off of this, your job is to deliver to your principal whatever the hard news is. And Robbie, Emma Joe, I'm getting the impression that so many of these people who are in the president's cabinet and inner circle are afraid to tell him the truth, whether it's this issue or another issue. I
think that it's really like, when I saw that Joe Kent resigned in the letter that he posted, which at first, just at that letter, I mean, obviously it was a splashy way to leave. Certainly in the middle of a war, it was a very controversial thing to do, but okay. Whatever. Okay. That's the thing, is that Joe Kent lost his wife in Syria. So whatever I'm going to think or react about it, my first thought was whatever I'm thinking right now and reacting to right now, I'm going to not like I'm gonna give him, like, let him do him, you know, and not and I'm going to assume that anyone calling him names looks bad.
Yeah.
Anyone doing that. And obviously you can anticipate that there would be some sort of a venom that would be spewed at him for this, no matter what. And he lost his wife. So I just don't think anyone really has anything to say about Joe Kent unless they've also lost their wife in a war.
I don't understand why they're
but just one thing to you know, and so I just and I want to say that at the outset that was my opinion of this Joe Kent thing, and that was my opinion politically about it and aesthetically about it. However, it didn't end at the letter. Then he comes out as a former official, goes on Tucker Carlson
I was going to bring this
podcast and is insane and says things that are completely insane, obviously, totally inappropriate, totally unbecoming, and obviously ridiculous and then disrespectful.
He said.
So you know, no, but just that said, like,
yeah,
once you're going that far and you're making a spectacle now, like a real spectacle, that's not just I'm resigning in protest. I have a moral problem here. My wife was killed for this reason and I can't participate anymore. That was the initial impression. Then we moved into Tuckerland, and I think that high ground, personally, watching this, I'm like, he's lost it.
I actually do agree with you, Emma Jo. I kind of had the same exact pathway because I'm listening and, you know, he's making these claims and I'm taking them very seriously. But then he says he cast aspersions on the Charlie Kirk death in the same Candace Owens way. He said the last thing Charlie Kirk said to him was that you have to prevent a war with Iran. That just seems, I don't believe that. I don't know what to say. That seems very convenient. That's like if I said the last thing Charlie Kirk said to me was that I should host yet another television show, right? Come on now. Seems very unlikely. So I'm not calling him. I don't need to.
So stupid.
It's, you know, at some point then I start to suspect you're just telling the people listening to you what they want to hear. I don't know.
Well, no, it's actually more
seriously.
It's worse. You're preying on the vulnerability of the people listening to you who are still hurt about Charlie.
Right.
It's very cynical and very ugly.
Were you going to say something, Michael?
No. Do we know if he was planning to leave because he was trying to avoid something from happening to him, or was he being pushed out? So he preempted
there was an
that?
investigation into him on suspicion, I think, of being a leaker of sorts, and I don't know if that's why he decided to resign. That was going on. For the leaking, I just assume, and maybe you know more about this than I do, that everyone is leaking at all times to friendly, you know, trying to get one up on everyone else. And it's a kind of silly thing to be like, oh, that's the leaker. You're all leaking. You're all giving anonymous quotes to friendly reporters. You're all doing it. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. It's like
the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other. Everyone is Spider-Man and they're all pointing at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the like palace intrigue stuff. But if he was leaking intelligence, that is different. First of all, that's very, and that warrants internal investigations. Absolutely. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't think he doesn't seem like the kind of person who has a ton of credibility. One, because he's leaving kind of in a way that makes me question his motives. He's I only knew him as a former candidate. So, you know, they're really elevating somebody who really had no national public profile until now, as far as in the mainstream press, I guess, as I would say. But I also don't trust like former candidates who become staffers. They're always ambitious and they always have an alternative agenda. So I think there's some hubris.
Isn't that all of DC? I mean, Michael, I totally disagree.
Trust me.
With that assessment. I mean, that's all of DC for the most part. That's most of DC. I won't say all, but Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and Black Jesus with the sandals on. I mean, that's what happens in DC. You know what I mean? So he's not an outlier. I mean, for me, and I hear what you're saying, I don't think he should be disqualified for that. And to a point that Emma Jo made, and I understand what you and Robbie are saying, you know, this man has been through a lot. And although he may be saying some wild-ish things, that does not negate the fact that some of what he is saying may, in fact, be true.
Sure.
Well, how do you say that if you have somebody who has said things that it sounded like a Candace Owens podcast, which actually got me thinking once they accused him of leaking, by the way.
It sounds
anyway,
like,
it's the Candace, this is a person who is saying things that have obviously no credibility, that are obviously fabricated, and not only fabricated, but again, very cynical things going on in that kind of thinking. And so, how do you say, well, there were other things that were true? Robbie brought this up a couple episodes ago, that it was a really good point and a true point. When you're listening to somebody as a journalist and you're trying to weigh the validity and the veracity of what they're saying, if they tell you one thing that's not true and one thing that is true, it kind of poisons the thing that is true with the thing that's not true.
President Donald J. Trump does that on a regular basis. That's how he rolls at all times.
My favorite
I think to his fault. I think to his fault, he's too honest.
Was him telling him telling the Japanese that they know a thing or two about surprises. Pearl Harbor, anyone? It was a great moment. We do have a hand, I believe. Andres, let's get him in here. Nice to see you, sir. What's on your mind? Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, lots of stuff to comment on. Kind of following on something that our mutual friend Anthony, who don't see today, mentioned during the morning meeting about somehow, and it was brought up again about the rhetoric from the Democrats making them sound like leftists. I've been to at least 3 Democratic conventions. I think the Honorable Nina has seen a parade of military commanders there. Definitely the Democratic Party is not a party of peaceniks. And we heard that during both the House Armed Services Committee meeting today, as well as, or that was yesterday, as well as both the questionings of the intelligence people. My question is kind of maybe to the remarks about Joe Kent being described as all of a sudden going crazy, or like, who is this person? Why is he saying this stuff? My understanding of his statements about the conspiracy theories about Ukraine, I've known about for years. He was an ardent supporter of the, 2020 election is being stolen theory. Why is it only when he turns on your party that we can all start deciding that he's crazy? I mean, he's clearly been crazy, not just the blood libel stuff about the Israel and how they killed his wife and all this other stuff, but he's been saying crazy stuff all along. I think the real question is, why was this person put in charge of counterterrorism, and why is it okay to just within 24 hours to us blow away the fact that Donald Trump said, well, he was never strong on security, but that's the guy I wanted to be in charge of counterterrorism.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but you could also do that on, I saw mainstream people saying, what a bold or people who are mainstream liberal, skeptical of the war, saying what a brave truth teller, great guy, hero. And like, oh, weren't they also saying he was like white nationalist adjacent and all that? So it's, we're eager to embrace and disassociate. I had heard of him. I've seen him on social media. I'd known that he had run for state, or not state house, for National Congress. Yeah. had done a Kerry Lake where you effectively primary the Republican who could win in the district and cost Republicans a seat. Many such cases.
But he almost won. I thought he was I thought he was much more of a mainstream Republican, actually, without knowing much about him, to be honest with you. I didn't do research on him, but I assume because he was in a tough, like a frontline running against a frontline Democrat, that he was a more moderate mainstream Republican. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I don't know.
He was a well-known, I think among MAGA people, at least, he was a well-known character. And he came out against war. That was what he was known for, that he lost his wife in Syria and to ISIS, by the way. There was a weird pivot to Israel last night.
Yeah, I don't even know what he meant by it when he said that
in the
on
Syrian
a war
civil
caused
war
by Israel, and in the 2019, I couldn't even follow.
Yeah, it was.
He said that the attack, there was a bombing by ISIS that he blamed on Israel.
Right.
Was his wife in the military?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was
she was a soldier.
The bombing.
Yeah, so she was a soldier, and he lost her in the Syrian civil war to ISIS. Like, it was an ISIS attack that killed her. That was what he was known for, was opposing war and talking about the loss, his widowhood and the loss that he's endured because of these wars. And it was all very reasonable and fine. And he was very ideologically aligned with Tulsi, who's also, coming from the same place. Like, that's her big issue, right? And her veteran status is also used in talking about that argument and giving her perspective that its weight. And that was all, like, he was not, whatever. I never knew him, and I've been following him. I never knew him as I don't know what happened last night. It was very strange.
But on that topic, because I hear this a lot in the progressive and the mainstream media, legacy media as well. Trump promised not to do this, or promised to do that, or said he wasn't going to run on this. Well, a part of me thinks back to, like, first of all, it was Democrats who invented the phrase campaign in you campaign in poetry and govern in prose. Right. It's another way, just another way of saying, like, when you have to govern, you have to really put on the adult pants in the room. You have to really be the adult. You're making decisions that you don't make as a candidate or in politics. Governing is very different. I don't want my president, my military, my CIA, my defense secretary making decisions about war or threats to the homeland simply because of campaign rhetoric. George Bush ran on not being America's police.
I know. I liked what he ran on.
but it's like, when we got to the White House, we didn't expect to walk in with the greatest public health crisis in a generation. You go into these jobs and to work for the government or public policy, knowing that anything can change at any time. And Bush had to adapt, and we had to, we were attacked. We had to go to Roosevelt. We were attacked. We had to go to war. The public, I was a Democrat, but still in college. I was a freshman in college. I went to New York to protest the protesters, and I held up a sign that said, "Would Saddam let you protest?" I bought into it because after 9/11, but after 9/11, everything changed. Everybody felt the security threat changed, and you wanted to go take the war.
Oh Lord,
to the rest of the world. I didn't want it.
Nina, to be fair, that was a very
describing a sentiment
position
that existed. I know, I remember that.
That was a very popular position.
Not only was it popular, but if you voted for John Kerry or John Edwards or any Democrat running for president in 2004 and most in 2008, they all voted for that war because everybody felt the same way at the time. Everybody wanted to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them in downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, fight them on other people's land and don't give a damn about their collateral damage, their babies, their grandmothers, their father. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do that.
Well, now a lot of people feel differently.
Well, we don't have to get upset about
that. Was the sentiment, right? It was.
We're talking about 25 years ago.
Here's
Good Lord.
Here's the point, though. Again, the whole cavalier attitude, I don't even understand what the adult in the room really means. Last time I checked, they were all supposed to be adults. I do. I'm saying that with tongue in cheek. But the bottom line is that no leader who has the power of war, power of life and death, should take that power and use it in a way that is cavalier and doesn't give thought to what the consequences and repercussions will be for those of us alive today and those who are yet unborn, and just send other people's family members out to fight a war. It is clear, Michael, anybody who has served in government, anybody who has been elected, maybe some other people on the panel have been elected. Hopefully what you're saying in running, I will agree with you, you're running with these high hopes, and life may throw a curveball where you have to make a different decision. But
come on now. You sound so DC.
No, baby, never that. I am the Nina Turner, and
shots fired.
I scorch earth on DC. which is enemy occupied territory even before President Trump got there. Don't let me start on your Biden-Harris people. Please don't let me start on them. So, but what you say and you campaign on should not be so far from how you actually govern. And that, to me, has been happening far too often in whether it's a Democratic administration or a Republican administration. The everyday people of this country end up bearing the brunt of their prose and their poetry. They playing too many games with the American people.
What?
And whether it's President
Michael,
Donald Trump
you're
or
muted.
President
You muted
Biden.
yourself.
Sorry, I don't know how I did that. There's big stuff like war, but there's other stuff that it's all, President Obama, when he was running, he voted to fund the war every time he was in the Senate. He ran for the Senate and for president saying he had all this judgment that Hillary and Biden and Kerry and Edwards didn't have, because he said in some speech that he didn't want to go into Iraq. Well, but then he got to Congress, and he certainly voted to keep that war going for 3 more years.
He did.
Absolutely.
He was wrong.
And when he got to, but like, even though it's other things, that's how politics is, and you know this. He tried to be the most pro-labor candidate. And what did he do when he became president? How many trade deals did he pass? He was Mr. Anti-Trade in the primary against Hillary. And then as president, he wanted to push through the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and Trump had to end up running like a Democrat in 2016, sounded more populist than the current Democratic Party. And so maybe it's the media that lets these people get away with this stuff, that you can say whatever you want to win the nomination or to win the primary or win the election, and then you're not held accountable when you have to be an adult or a team player in the Senate or the House, or Well,
how about Michael? Some of these people are lying through their teeth as they're campaigning. I mean, that's always a possibility too.
Let's get you another community member. We got Sam next, I believe. There he is. Hello, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, everybody. Good to see y'all. The Honorable Nina Turner. Good to be on with you. Emma, Robbie.
Hey, Michael, it's been a minute.
It's been a little bit. Like, my work schedule's been wild. I've been watching you guys on YouTube, like yelling into the screen.
Thank you.
Love that.
Thank you.
Beyond. Guys, hearing Michael call the Trump administration the adults in the room is very mind-numbing. Or alluding to that idea that they have to be the adults in the room, and some degree they're doing the right thing.
It was a broader point about people who transition from candidate to president, how they are supposed to be the adults in the room. But go ahead.
Okay, I would have loved to hear the compliment from your side, but I did vote for Donald Trump twice, and I wouldn't say I regret my choice, but I am extremely disappointed in the administration, from the Epstein files to this needless war, this war of choice. And we talk about and hearing people talk about alluding to the idea that, clearly Benjamin Netanyahu is acting in the interest of the people of his country, which he should, which he must. Good for him. But it is clear that his efforts to convince our president to do something that may not have been in our best interest. I don't believe it was in our best interest to go into this war, because there's no articulable reason that you could tell me that Iran posed an imminent threat to us. So I don't think this push to just say, oh, it's anti-Semitic, to say that Israel had a large influence on our actions is preposterous. The Israelis are doing what they should do. They're fighting for their own interests. And I just wish our president would have considered our interests ahead of the interests of our allies in this decision. I think it was foolhardy, but it is not because the Jews or, of course, anti-Semitism is a problem that's growing, but I think it's important for good people to just allow for reasonable analysis and not, and I hate the term gaslighting because it's overused, but it really is gaslighting to say, oh, you can't bring this up because that makes you like, you just shut the discussion down. I think it's a lazy form of argumentation to a degree, and it would be great to hear someone in the media, especially you all, who I respect in the media, really speak to that, especially to people who are, not anti-Semitic. Second thing is, we not learn? We continue to look back at Iraq and talk about how there's so many similarities, and where we were in the Bush administration, and we're watching the same things happen all over again. I think it would be like, can we not? Yes, the emotions are similar, but the situation is completely different, especially given the fact that we have hindsight to tell us that there is a huge trap that could cost us trillions and trillions of dollars and many, many lives again. So yeah, I was just hoping you guys could address that.
Yeah.
I'll respond to your point first, because I actually think that what you just said is the anti-Semitic. It's anti-Semitic. Because there's a distinction between, I think, what you're saying and what people who are like these like low IQ anti-Semites that are obviously anti-Semites that you see on Twitter are saying, which are that somehow Israel tricked everyone into this, which is like, it's not, they didn't like, put a fishing wire in a doorway. There are many steps to be taken to engage in this activity, and to suppose that everybody has like this like shroud over them that has been placed by Israel is obviously insane, and probably anti-Semitic, I guess. I mean, that's clearly the sentiment that it's coming from. What you just said is different, which is Israel lobbied what I think happened, by the way, is clearly, and what you can kind of piece together with what they'll reveal about this, is clearly Israel basically said, you've been flirting with this action for years. Trump has been flirting with this for years, since pre-2015, actually, even. Your negotiations with Iran aren't going anywhere. They're stalled. We have an opportunity coming up where we're going to have these people in a room together, which is how this all began, right? Where they exploded a room full of then they killed 40 people of the top brass in Iran in like 5 minutes. We have an opportunity for a strike that should be pretty clean. And this is what we're saying, and I think that that's probably true to say. There's nothing anti-Semitic about that. It's absolutely more in Israel's interest, or probably more imminently in Israel's interest, to perform this operation than it is the United States' interest. That doesn't mean that we have no interest, but surely their interest is deeper and bigger. And they probably like served it up and Trump hit it, which is like what it looks like. It seems quite simple. And Marco Rubio has said as kind of as much. Trump has said kind of as much. They sort of circle this, and that's what you can surmise based on what they said. Nothing anti-Semitic about that. And the people who are calling it anti-Semitic, I mean, it's overly emotional, overly defensive, and frankly, as low IQ as the people I think on the other side. It's like silly. Like, Israel is a Jewish country. It's a political state. It has political interests. It has military interests. And to what, like, because they're Jews, they're living in the land of Messiah. They're post-death. They're post-politics. No, they're another country with political interests, and they're trying to rally people who can help them pursue them.
Yeah,
Duh.
That's right.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think that's all very well put. Sometimes I'll see
Michael,
someone say, oh, this statement is anti-Semitic, and then I'll read it, and it is just criticism of Israel's government. And I'll go, there's nothing about the Jewish people as a people appears in here. I might not agree with the criticism, but it's not. And then, so I'm with you, Emma Jo. I agree with so much of what you said. And I truly am kind of a swing voter on this thing, because I want to believe this was in our best interest. And I despise the Iranian government. They just executed a well-known athlete today for political dissent, murderous regime thugs. I want them to fall and be replaced with democracy. I want that. I openly want that. But then it concerns me when I see going the other way. Then Trump's put out a statement on True Social this morning, I think, last night, directed at Israel, saying they hit some target he didn't want them to hit, and he was upset about that. And I'm like, what? How are they hitting things you didn't tell them you could hit? Like, who's in charge here? And I think that attitude speaks to a frustration that many Americans, and including an element of MAGA, has, that like we're being led into this. And again, maybe there are good reasons for it, but they can't bomb something we don't want them to bomb when we help pay for their defense.
Totally. And that's, I guess, like, that's like part of just super quick on that, because it's a perfect example of like, which I think leads the conversation into this weird and sometimes stupid place where it's like, take responsibility for this war. It's a huge deal. Own it, just own it. And there's so much integrity and honor in owning what you're doing, what you're clearly doing. It's not like the Israelis and then sometimes we're piping in or whatever. Like, we're there, we're totally there. And it's not the Jews and it's not cosmic, and it's like, just own this. And if there's something that goes awry, like whatever he was talking about, that he's like now pretending he never knew, like, I don't believe he didn't know. Or perhaps I don't believe anyone at the Pentagon.
Actually, let's go to Colleen. I saw her write something to that effect in the comments.
Nina, I know Nina wanted to respond, but yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Hi guys.
Go ahead, Colleen.
Hi everybody. How are you?
Yeah.
Thanks for calling on me. So apparently Trump did know. A very well-sourced Israeli journalist said he did know, but he had to have cover and say, "Well, I didn't know about it. We didn't know about it." But that's typical, I think. Sure. But talking about, I was going. I don't
love that though, even if that is the case. But go ahead.
Yeah. So
I don't like to be deluded on purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. About everyday issues of the Democrats. But I was going to speak to Sam quickly and just say instead that I know it seems like, and as a Democrat, I support this action in Iran just because for decades, I mean, I guess when you're older, you see the whole perspective of it. But for decades, every president has said Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. We must stop them.
Exactly.
And I think this is as crazy as Trump is, and some of the erratic things that he does do. I support some of the things he does, but I think it was a golden historic opportunity to go in and take them out. And it could all work out well. It's not looking so great at the moment, but it might. I mean, if there's an insurgency, if Mossad and CIA are doing their job on the ground and this if we have a democratic Iran or even a semblance of democracy there, then this will be a big victory for not only us, for the region, for Israel, of course, and I don't think Trump was beholden and did this because Israel told him to. I mean, does anyone believe that Trump would actually do that? I don't think so. I think he thought, okay, this is a great opportunity. We have to take it. We can do it, but it might lead to troops on the ground, because the only way this is going to end is if we get control of that strait and Karg Island, the other oil control. Yeah. So that might require troops on the ground to take that over. And then that's other geopolitical leverage for us with China and Russia if we actually do that. So this could change tomorrow if there's an overthrow of the government. We just don't know. But I think, I don't think that Trump planned this in Iran. I just think the opportunity came up and it was too historically golden to give it up.
Totally. So obviously true.
It's not. Go ahead.
That's so true.
Yeah, I don't buy
obviously true. But just one more thing. It's so much. And the way that Colleen put it is so like, I don't know if you meant to, but it's so funny and right. Where like in order to believe the claim that Trump was tricked, like it's actually not insulting to Jews as much as it's insulting to Trump. Maybe it's not insulting to Jews at all. It's like the Jews like tricked Trump like that. What? That requires him to be like a baby, like intellectually like a baby. It's an extremely insulting take on Trump.
Right. And if Trump was capable of being controlled, the Republican Party and the entire conservative media apparatus that wanted him gone and dead and destroyed, not just in 2016, but again after 2020, would have succeeded. I mean, he didn't even give his biggest and wealthiest and most important supporter, Elon Musk, Trump immediately cut subsidies for electric vehicles. Like, he doesn't operate that way. He thinks his best. I don't believe he's beholden. I mean, it's the same with the Russian narrative, honestly. Like the idea that he thinks he owes favors and is controlled by foreign opposition in either case, I think is just never added up for me. I know definitely.
I agree in this case that they would have had to have tricked our own intelligence, who would have had to have confirmed or corroborated what the Israelis said. The intelligence they had about who was going to be there, and our intelligence officers and assets in the region would have to be also duped as well. And I don't think everybody was duped. I think all of this was probably. I think Trump was persuaded by the intelligence that was there, as most presidents are, i.e., Iraq, i.e., Kabul's going to fall in a couple of months. Oh no, it's going to be a couple of days.
We was wrong. We were wrong about it.
But
correct.
We were wrong about Iraq, though. There were no weapons of
the
mass
intelligence
destruction.
can be wrong.
So the intelligence.
And Kabul, that's my point, is that the intelligence can be wrong, but you have to go with what the intelligence says is the threat.
But the intelligence did not say that Iran was an imminent threat. I think there's kernel of truth. I can admit that too. I see things I could agree with everything that has been said, especially how Sam got us started on this. And again, you just have to be very, very careful when you have the power of war. And this president this administration has not made the case for this country being an immediate threat. They are a type of threat, no doubt about it. They are a heinous, brutal government towards their people, but it's okay, the government killing their own people versus, oh, let's let another nation bomb the hell out of you. The Iranian people are really stuck between a rock and a hard place here. And Emma Jo, I think I heard you say that the president just said he's not planning today. You qualified that very well today to send in troops. So what happened to those 5,000 that are in the ready? My question would be, going back to something Sam said, he didn't say these words, but why isn't 5,000 Israeli soldiers in the ready? Why does it have to be the American soldiers first, or military people first in the ready? This has to be about America first all the way through. Even if you check in the box, it has to be. And in some ways, I think a lot of people on the political spectrum are coming to feel as though that he was convinced or persuaded. I won't say, he was manipulated, but persuaded to get into this at this moment for another country's whose interest is above ours first. So, and then for Sam, I wanted to know from Sam said he voted for the president twice, but he's not happy right now. And I get that. Politicians, we disappoint, you know what I mean? Hopefully I've never disappointed to this level. Maybe when I run for president, I'll get the opportunity to disappoint at this level. But Sam, I'm interested to know, why did you vote for President Trump the first two times in the first place? I'm very interested. I have a brother who's very conservative, as Emma Jo knows, and we argue every morning. You doggone right, Philip. Nina 2028.
Look, I would vote for you. I would vote for you in a heartbeat. I'll just tell you that.
Thank you.
Number one, authenticity, and I think that's what you have in spades. But number two, this second time around, I was on prior to the morning meeting prior to our show now, when it was just morning meeting. It was about the economy. I am a young dad. I have a wife, 2 kids, and I moved from California because I became more and more conservative. The more I got along in age and life stages and economically, and I realized that the policies that it seemed Trump cheered for in his first term were positive. So I voted for him in 2020, and then I voted for him again this last time around. And then a second part of why I voted for him was because of the wars. As a millennial, my life's been shaped in at least my foreign policy views have been shaped quite a bit by the wars. I've got friends that came back in boxes. I've got friends that came back very different. And I didn't want to see that again. That's why I'm so vociferously against it again, because the human cost is just in your, just to your, a neighbor of mine just posted on our local Facebook page that her son just got deployed. This is what Americans are thinking about when we think about this war. Those who did and did not vote for Trump.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that, Sam.
Thank you for
And
that,
to your
Sam.
point about that, I think the people who are so gung-ho about this war, then they need to go fight it. I mean, they're accepting applications right now. So for all the people who are cheering this on and think this is the greatest thing to do since sliced bread, looking out for the troops, centering our troops and the impacts that things like this have on them, I just don't see them being centered right now, and that's really sad. But anybody who wants to go, you think this is great, go. And if you have any trepidation about going, then you need to think about other people's children.
Well, I was just going to say, just super quick, because I just wanted to respond to Nina and Sam, actually. Like, I think their points kind of go together. It's like, we're getting way ahead of ourselves if we're talking about troops on the ground, let alone like who's going. Like, first of all, if there's a ground war on this war, I don't think that there's a world where Israel steps back at the point where they have to put in guys. And if you've been looking at Israel over the last couple of years, maybe since 2023, you've seen that they, first of all, not only are they not afraid to walk into a war theater, but they have sent in guys on foot when they could have and probably should have, for their own interest, if they really wanted to be self-centered, go from the air. They've sent guys into snipers' nests to extract Israelis one by one, as opposed to just leveling something from above. They sacrifice their own men for a greater mission and a moral mission, and that is the way that they operate. And pound for pound, they're formidable fighters. I cannot imagine that there is a world where, if God forbid, and I hope not, because what Sam said gave me a pit in my stomach, because we're probably around the same age. And I grew up like traumatized by Iraq too, and Afghanistan. And God forbid. But that said, it's like, first of all, there's no, I hope not, but there's no way I don't think that Israel backs away from that fight. And second of all, again, like, I just think this is really important, and I don't mean to be annoying, but it's really important to me that we are clear here. You could say it's not America first, or it is America first, or whatever, but to pretend that Trump was tricked in some way. If I say to you, Nina, I want you to come to New York to visit, and you say, Emma, I can't, I have work. And I say, I want you to come to New York to visit. Please come to New York. I have a Broadway show planned, and I have dinner planned, and you can play with my dog, and you could take my daughter to the park, and I'll make you breakfast. Just come to New York. And you maybe initially were apprehensive about coming to New York, but then you're convinced. I still didn't force you to come to New York. I've just made the deal sweeter, and you've entered into the trip. So to say that Israel convinced him or forced him or made him or made him abandon America first or made him abandon America, period, it's not, it's on principle incorrect and unfair. And it's unfair first and foremost to Trump.
Yeah.
He's a grown man.
Let's try to get one more community member participant in before we wrap. DJ, thanks for being with us. Got to make it quick, but what is in your mind?
Yeah, so one quick comment and one question. So I don't believe that like Trump was like tricked or anything. I think it personally was probably ego. So probably like, hey,
I never used the word trick though, for the record.
Right,
but you're right. I agree with you.
Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, you'll get a prize, right? Nobel Peace Prize. My question is going to be on the financial implications of this. So with oil prices being as high as they are, for not for Americans, but I'm thinking internationally, how does that affect international investment into America? So as you try to use tariffs as leverage to bring investment into America, are those countries and companies still going to make good on their commitments if they're going through a recession because of rising oil and oil shortages? And then also thinking about like countries that are teetering at the moment, IMF bailouts probably coming, in the next 1 to 2 months.
What is?
IMF bailouts.
IMF bailouts. So you have countries defaulting. So you think
those
like
are
Pakistan,
great.
Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. And so like, how is that going to then affect our economic domestic policy that we want if globally we're going to countries are going to be, going
Right.
through a recession.
And that's why there is a time limit on this thing, regardless of what Trump or Netanyahu or anyone wants. Like the supporters of the president are with him and they're waiting to see. But I mean, the kind of ground invasion, greater escalate, those things got to be off the table for no other reason than they can't go into midterms in any more of a precarious financial shape for all the reasons you just mentioned. So they're let me use this word again, they're delusional. They're deluding themselves if they think there's an unlimited time limit on this thing. It's just no way for all the reasons.
And are we at $1 billion a day so far?
Right.
I'm not sure if it went up.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. Come on.
Right.
Come
Yeah.
on.
No,
And I'll say
totally.
one final thing:
Totally.
the 200 billion that their Pentagon's asking for, that has to be
No
through
way they get it.
reconciliation. That has to be done through reconciliation and budget neutral. There's no what 200 billion are you cutting from?
Well,
Correct.
I don't think it doesn't have to be budget neutral.
Well, right, because we don't.
Michael.
When
Well,
have
that's
Biden-
the first
we know-
Republican
we know-
commitment that goes out the window, right?
Biden Harris zip up doesn't care about it being budget neutral.
they are going to do it through reconciliation, and they are going to find other ways to pay to plug some
For
of
the
holes.
American people to pay for it.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing,
I-
and DJ is like so on about this, this next phase and bringing up that headline 'cause it's so good, and I think that will, I mean, at least I will feel warmth in my neck and on my ears. I don't know if anyone else gets that when they're furious. If there's $200 billion given to this, and I get my mass deportations,
And
didn't
Joe's
get
only
them.
cut 200
Oh,
billion.
good.
So now we just did it all.
I
Wow.
can't stomach spending another cent, period. But that's just me.
I'm with you,
All right,
Robbie.
we gotta leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. Great conversation. We had a lot more to get to that we didn't get to. Maybe we'll save it for next week. Please, again, remember to subscribe to our new YouTube channel. We need you to do that. We want you to do that. It makes us so happy when you do that. It makes our friends and supporters and sponsors at Two Way happy too. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody.